What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you here on Fantasy Pros. This will be a 12-team full PPR mock where we have the 6th overall pick. Our roster: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. And while we wait for it to load, a quick reminder: if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's dive into this mock. And yes, it is still early. Things will change, but we want to get a feel of this process from start to finish, from this early phase to the late phase come August, September. And I always think it's very, very fun to see how these rankings will change. And the more of these that we do, I can give you more thoughts on the players that we selected and the teams that we put together. But look, we're picking 6th overall, so right in the middle of this thing. And the first 5 picks, pretty standard. McCaffrey followed by 4 wide receivers. I think right now they're quote-unquote tier 1 wide receivers. More or less, I guess you could argue that those 4 guys, Lamb, Tyreek, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, would be in that tier 1 category. I think you could also argue Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. So, the guy's been sensational ever since stepping foot into the league. Now, we've done a lot of, mock drafts prior years and, the early ones so far this season where we go running back early. But I want to challenge ourselves a little bit here. So let's take a wide receiver here with the 6th overall pick. To me, the wide receiver is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do have him ranked a little bit higher than a Garrett Wilson. So let's go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then let's see, maybe we get lucky with the running back position in the 2nd round. And we can add a difference maker to our squad as a starting running back. But now we can pay a little bit more attention to the draft board and what has taken place. So we went Amon-Ra St. Brown. Typically, I would probably go Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson. But again, we switched it up. Then A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison. Boy, the early rankings love Marvin Harrison. Obviously, rookie wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. I disagree. I would be taking him after, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, just to name a few guys. And then obviously the guys that he was drafted before: Drake London, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams. My personal opinion, Jonathan Taylor goes at the 202. Was kind of hoping he'd follow me. Then Drake London, Chris Olave, Isaiah Pacheco, way, way too early for Pacheco, in my opinion. How are you drafting Pacheco ahead of Saquon Barkley, who he will be our pick here, Saquon Barkley. We needed a running back, and he makes it pretty easy. I think he's by far and away the best running back left available. So let's add Saquon Barkley to the squad. He's in Philadelphia, so obviously a new home, new situation there. But, I think he's in a better offense overall. Yes, Jaylen Hurts will take away some rushing opportunities, but let's not forget Daniel Jones, rushing quarterback as well. He would get those quarterback sneaks. He'd get those rushing touchdowns and vulture Saquon Barkley. So I think to some extent it's a wash. Overall, that offense is better. And I think Saquon Barkley is in a good situation. So again, going back to the draft board after we went Saquon, Brandon Ayuk, Kyren Williams. I'm still kind of up in the air on how I feel about Kyren Williams. I think after Saquon Barkley, and some of these other running backs, you get into this pretty big drop-off at the running back position. So Kyren Williams is in that next tier for me. So is A-Chain. So is Travis Etienne. Michael Pittman went in the 3rd round. Mahomes, Nico Collins, Josh Allen, Debo, and Sam Laporta. So in this specific mock draft version, we see our first tight end drafted all the way in the 3rd round. Personally, I'd probably be more aligned with this as well. Seeing a tight end drafted in the 1st round, especially when I don't think there's a Travis Kelce of old, like the dominant Travis Kelce of 2-3 years ago. To me, that says let's wait a little bit, probably until the end of the 2nd, early mid-3rd, until you select that tight end. Because right now, look, Travis Kelce is still, in fact, on the board for me. So we could go in that direction, but I think there's some really good value at tight end later on, and I want this mock draft to kind of serve as that proof, if you will. So with that being the case, I'm looking at these other players. Wide receiver, we could potentially go a Jaylen Waddle, Stephon Diggs. I do like at running back Josh Jacobs being in Green Bay. The primary guy, Aaron Jones, no longer there. I think he can do a lot of things that Aaron Jones did well. Looking at these other names, Derrick Henry, I just think that age, circumstance, playing alongside Lamar, it's going to hurt. He's not a PPR guy as well. James Cook, I do like him, but I just don't think he is that high up on my list. I do like Alvin Kamara, but again, I think the premier Alvin Kamara is kind of behind us, if you will. So I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs here, get my second running back. It's a position that, not a lot of teams land depth with. So I'm going to address it right now. And just as a reminder, what our roster looks like: Saquon, Josh Jacobs, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now going back to the draft board, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore afterwards, Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, James Cook, Rashad White, Stephon Diggs goes. I was hoping Stephon Diggs would fall to me. Joe Mixon, Travis Kelce. Was hoping Travis Kelce might fall to us. But, I think this is probably on the latter extreme of how long he will last. If you can get Travis Kelce in the 4th round, I think that's tremendous value. Then Keenan Allen, Mark Andrews. Cooper Kupp was also tempting. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But there's a lot of names here that are still available. Jaylen Waddle is still there. Alvin Kamara, if we decided to go Alvin Kamara as our 3rd running back, I do think right now he's probably the best value. Other guys, potentially Ramondre Stevenson, good value. Antonio Gibson did join New England, but I still think Stevenson is the preferred guy, healthy. So that's an option. But I do want to add a second wide receiver. I'm looking at the wide receivers, and I do think Jaylen Waddle, again, he's got the upside, good offense. Trey McBride also a little bit tempting. He had a great rookie season and is somebody that I think will only improve. So McBride is somebody that I do like. But again, you look at these guys: Kincaid, Evan Ingram, Kittle, Njoku, Kyle Pitts in the next tier. I really like those guys as well. So what we'll do is I'll pass on tight end now, and then I will select Jaylen Waddle. And if McBride happens to fall to me, then great. I will grab him in this next round. If not, we will pivot and make another selection. So again, looking at our draft board after we went Jaylen Waddle, Malik Neighbors, second rookie. This is what you're going to see. Malik Neighbors will be the second rookie selected, I think, regardless of position, whether it's, running back, wide receiver, quarterback. So yeah, Malik Neighbors, I'd much rather get Neighbors than Marvin Harrison at this difference in ADP. I realize Harrison has the better quarterback, but again, I don't think Marvin Harrison will be a top 10, top 12 wide receiver. Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara. So Kamara does go. Devonta Smith, Rashee Rice, facing some off-the-field issues, so questionable there. Amari Cooper, Lamar, DK Metcalf, Aaron Jones, and Ramondre Stevenson goes as well. So Stevenson would have been tempting. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Right now, if we went running back, I do like somebody like a Swift, somebody like a Montgomery. Basically these next 3 guys. James Conner, even though he does have some rookie competition. But look, I told you what I'm going to do. I said if Trey McBride makes it to the next round, I'll go ahead and select them. So I'm going to stick true to my word. And that's what we're going to do here. So let's land Trey McBride. And again, I continue to say this. We're going to get him in the 5th round now. But I bet you Kincaid, Ingram, Kittle, Pitts are going to be available 2 rounds from now. So to me, even better value. And, well, I kind of hit the nail on the head there. There were a couple tight ends that were taken, but there's still a good amount left. So after you see Dak Prescott, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, I like those running backs. I mentioned that. Zay Flowers, George Pickens, Tank Dell, 2 tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts. So, okay, go in the 6th round. CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, a couple more quarterbacks. I don't worry too much about the quarterback position. To me, I think I can land a good quarterback later on in the draft process. So I'm okay there. Now we turn our attention to, I think, basically next best available player. T. Higgins is kind of tempting with no more Tyler Boyd, but I feel like he's a little bit too up and down. I do like Terry McLaurin with the quarterback upgrade. Jordan Addison, I'm staying away from. I think without Kirk Cousins, questionable. Deontay Johnson, Hollywood Brown, I think I can get later on. So now we're kind of left looking at, do we go with another running back? Tony Pollard, I don't know how he'll be utilized. I don't love the situation here with the running backs that are left. I really don't. That's why, I probably should have taken a running back in the fifth round and gotten with like a Montgomery or a Swift, something like that. But it's okay. Let's go with T. Higgins here. Get our third wide receiver. And, I think that Higgins without Tyler Boyd will be a little bit more consistent. So I am excited about that. There was a couple of running backs that I was considering here. They were drafted. Namely, it was Nick Chubb that I was considering, potentially Jaylen Warren. But look, with Nick Chubb, we just don't know what the injury timetable will be. That's what's kind of scaring people away. I understand it. So, as that becomes more clear, he could potentially be somebody that is a huge, huge value. Now, Anthony Richardson also went, Kittle, Evan Ingram, those next group of tight ends. Zamir White, Javonte Williams, Raheem Mostert, Terry McLaurin. I probably would have gotten Terry McLaurin. Continue to add wide receiver depth. Then we see Jordan Love, Jaylen Warren, as I mentioned. So, quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, Tua, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert. I think right now I can go with, kind of a speculative pick, if you will. Tony Pollard signed a decent deal with Tennessee. So obviously, I think that they're saying, okay, we don't feel fully comfortable with just, the team as is post the Derrick Henry era. And I do think Tony Pollard, you could argue, has the highest upside of the running backs on that squad. Probably works better as a committee type of guy, but thankfully we don't necessarily have to rely on him. So I do like that situation for us. And obviously he's in contention with Spears in Tennessee. A lot of people thought it would be the Spears show without Derrick Henry, but Tony Pollard did pour some cold water on that. Then Calvin Ridley, a lot of running backs. Basically, when you get to the 7th, 8th round, all that depth at the running back position disappears pretty quickly. Kyler Murray, Chris Godwin, Najee, Zach Moss. Zach Moss was added to Cincinnati after Joe Mixon left. Ezekiel Elliott back in Dallas, but I don't love that situation. Hollywood Brown goes. Austin Eckler in Washington. Not a bad value pick, but I do think the dominant Austin Eckler days are behind us. So let's keep that in mind. So now we're left with guys like Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford could be a nice beginning of the season type of selection, but then once Nick Chubb returns, it's going to be tough. So here I'm going to go with somebody that I like in Deontay Johnson a lot, and let's add him to the squad. I think him being added to Carolina is going to be a big help for basically everyone involved offensively. I think Bryce Young is better situation than what Kenny Pickett was, so I like Deontay Johnson. I will say, considering some of the rookie running backs, so Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, mainly the two ones, but I think the running back room in Carolina is getting a little bit too full kind of quickly, right? So with Rashad Penny, with Hubbard, with Sanders, I do think one of those guys probably isn't in the rotation once the season kicks off. My guess would be Miles Sanders. We will see. Other selections here that we saw. So Rome Odunze, third rookie wide receiver. But yeah, there's a gap between him, between Malik Neighbors, and obviously Marvin Harrison, the reason being Rome Odunze, he's in the best situation, real life NFL, but for fantasy, way too many mouths to feed, right? With DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. So, yeah. Jerome Ford, we mentioned him a good value. So now I think we can kind of just start going some luxury picks. I think we can dive back into this situation at running back. Charbonnet could be a good kind of handcuff, if you will. I could go Caleb Williams. I could go, if we're looking at tight end depth, Goddard, TJ Hawkinson. If I'm looking at wide receivers that I really like, I think that somebody like a Xavier Worthy is tempting. I think Ladd McConkey in LA is tempting. Potentially could end up being the number one wide receiver there. But I do think Josh Palmer will have something to say about that. Brian Thomas in Jacksonville as well, guys that I like. These rankings will go up for the ADPs for some of the guys that I mentioned. So I'm not super worried about it. Let's go with Xavier Worthy now. He was a first round, rookie wide receiver that the Chiefs traded up for. If somebody like a Marquise Brown struggles to stay healthy, if, we see a suspension for Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy could pay off. What I will do, the one difference, I'll draft Zach Charbonnet first because I want to get a little bit more depth at running back, and then we'll see if Xavier Worthy falls to us. If not, it's not the end of the world. There's more depth at wide receiver than there is at running back at this point in time. So it's slim pickings, right? Xavier Worthy's still there. So we can go with our Xavier Worthy pick. I like that for us. And then we're going to make two final selections, and we will call this a done deal. So quarterback, we need a quarterback. And, I think Brock Purdy is, he had a breakout kind of fantasy season last year, but I'd still rather have somebody like a, potentially Tua, potentially Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Stafford, Rodgers, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. Dalton Schultz is a decent backup tight end option at this point as well. But, let's see to make sure I'm not forgetting any running backs. We could potentially get A.J. Dillon, but he's had some time to show what he can do. Not that great, in my opinion. So I've kind of decided what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go with a guy. Let's go with two quarterbacks here. So what I'll do is I'll get Tua, who has a lot of upside and can deliver and has a stacked offense. But then I will back him up with another quarterback that I like. So that will probably be Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins, something of that nature. Justin Herbert's also there, but look, I'm kind of hanging my hat on Aaron Rodgers this year. I did it last year as well, but unfortunately, it was a situation where he got hurt. But look, you know what? Actually, I've done a couple mock drafts where I go Aaron Rodgers, so I'm not going to force it. Let's go Kirk Cousins. I think as long as he comes back healthy from his own Achilles, then we should be okay. So we can add Kirk Cousins and kind of call it a day. Justin Herbert is also still there, but again, the offense that he has is a little bit scary. So we add Kirk Cousins, and let's see the grade that we get. We get an A+ grade. So I'm not as high on this team as FantasyPros is. I think that especially with our running back depth, it could be a little bit better. So I do love our starters, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, for what it's worth. Again, I probably what I would have done instead of Trey McBride, gone another running back. So that's the main difference. Quarterbacks, I'm not too worried about it. When you get to this point in quarterbacks, if you wait later on, it's kind of taking a little bit of a gamble, but a lot of good quarterback options in fantasy this season. So I'm not too worried about it. I'd probably give this a B+ grade, but hey, that's just me. B+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys have. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at All Day Pigskin. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.